Welcome to Rauta's non-metal reviews. This time we will go to the world of harsh noise, power electronics, and industrial. This is a legendary act, Satøri, from UK, which has gone through a lot of lineup changes over the years, meaning some members have left, gone back, and all that stuff during the about 40 years in the making, more than 40 years actually. This is Pillars of Salt, and they came with an interesting sticker on the cover of it. I'll just read it quickly. Industrial/power electronics veteran Satøri continues to document the stupidity of our species. Well, can't really challenge him about that. Of our species through the grinding rhythms, dystopian soundscapes, and fascination into what lies beneath the surface. So all about stupidity and all. Well, like I said, that is very much the case here, and that's why we have this, shall we call it, testimony? No, maybe just album dedicated to human stupidity and the problems that lie within. Thing here is, this is a veteran act, more than 40 years of age, and the music has changed over the course of years, obviously, due to various reasons. And as you can see, very, very simplistic digipack release by Cold Spring is here to present you exactly what goes on. Now, for the sake of it, let's just tune the Bandcamp site for this given album while I guide you through. So it comes with 13 tracks here, lasting more than 50 minutes all in all. And that's pretty much of it. There's a statement, some reviews and all that stuff about this release, which came already out in February. So what is inside is actually a combination of various styles. First, you can just, as an umbrella term, call it industrial. But then people start thinking, is it industrial rock? Is it industrial metal? And we're like, nope, let's go further. This more like takes on the power of power electronics as well as harsh noise, blends them together, rubbing in and all that stuff, adding some rhythmic patterns, some vocal parts, and that's how the music is born. But that it would be even so much as to simplify the whole thing here. What I mean is, yes, you get those rhythms, but this is not exactly your kind of music you just, nod your head to as if you were subtly moshing or whatever. Not to mention any kind of a dancing patterns. I mean, of course, technically speaking, you can do that, but this is not the music you're probably tapping your table to, but more like letting these primal rhythms come into play and make their way into the world of harsh noise and power electronics. Something that I feel as a kind of a tourist to the whole genres, even though I've been, listening to this kind of stuff, I don't know, almost 30 years by now, at least some 25 or whatever. My point here is sometimes I still I don't know where a certain genre in this kind of marginal music begins and ends. But, that I guess goes beside the point. What matters is that if you are into this kind of genre, you're probably gonna dig into this world like album with a fascination. Sometimes this is more like the noisier part. Sometimes it's kind of drifts away from that, getting into more kind of the power electronics thing, but not exactly any kind of ambience. This is not a relaxed album, but kind of aggressive one, which is where these rhythms come into play. So it's always like constantly shifting, creating different ideas through the course of action, and that in a way actually makes this album better. Because if it was only like one trick pony, lasting 40 minutes of different kind of hissing and other noises, it would get quite boring. But to be honest, it's always like constantly moving around, and that makes this rather diverse. So there are variations to the whole subgenres of this kind of music. Some parts are definitely more of that noise. I mean, when we're talking about hissing noises or kind of electrical crackling sounds and all that stuff, sometimes it's more kind of a going away from that. It's really hard to describe when I'm looking for, first of all, I'm not native English speaker, so obviously that is one thing, but it's also when I'm thinking this in Finnish, sometimes I'm thinking what would be the perfect way to describe this and that sound, because it's one thing to explain how certain drums work or certain guitar sound or bass sound, but even that gets complicated when there is just not enough different kind of words for that. So instead, maybe you should give this one a go here on this Bandcamp stuff. That is assuming harsh noise or power electronics over the bigger scale, marginal industrial music is your kind of thing. Now, when it comes to vocals, do not be scared. There's not too much of that going on. Like if you're much like me in the terms of industrial or drone or ambient or whatever, I'm a big fan of when the vocal parts come into play. That works great with rock music, metal music, pop music, and so forth. But when I want to go in this kind of marginal stuff, I'd rather keep the human factor very, very close to zero. But once again, if you are into exploring these kind of noisier parts of the world, you will actually find some solace in this kind of a combination of weird, unusual, non-musical sounds. And that's exactly what makes Pillars of Sarp rather interesting. But like I said, there is not much really to see. No booklet, not whatsoever. So no line of photos or all that normal stuff. Pretty much only a few selected words. Nice looking matte, digipack release and all that stuff. So if you're a collector, obviously you want to have a physical copy. But if you're only for the music, well, at least check out from the links provided. So off you go, and what can I say? Enjoy with caution.